Hello, hello. This is your host, Sheraz Ahmed, ready to kick off another bite-sized episode of the Crypto Valley Association podcast. A special thank you to Seba Bank for supporting this initiative as they pursue their mission to redefine finance for the new economy. Now let's discover together the growing trends of this fast-moving space and try to shed some light on the mysteries it contains. Today, we're joined by Alejandro De La Torre, Vice President of Poolin. More than just a mining pool, they have the vision of making the world a better place through decentralization and are on the mission to become a blockchain all ecological comprehensive service platform. So let's dive straight into the world of mining. Hello, Alejandro. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks, Shiraz. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course, my pleasure. How about we start things off today by getting some insights on where you first started in the blockchain world?
I started in 2013, so pretty early on. I realized that Bitcoin was here to stay and it was an important financial tool. In 2013, there was not a lot of companies around, so I decided to, start a handful of them. Some of them were failures, others were not. One of them was acquired by Bitmain. It was an M&A, so I joined the Bitmain team in 2000. That was like around 2016. 2016, 17. And in Bitmain, I started BTC.com alongside 5 other guys. Mm-hmm. We grew BTC.com to be the largest mining pool for 2 years in a row. We also did a handful of other things like analytics, APIs, a wallet, and also mining operations. I was there for 3 years. The other guys that started BTC.com, 3 of them decided to branch off on their own, and that was Poolin. I joined the team 6 months after they started. When I joined, we started mining Bitcoin and we grew Poolin from 0% of the global Bitcoin hash rate to be around 15% of the global Bitcoin hash rate in 1 year. That's second largest mining pool. We also expanded into many other avenues like mining operations and synthetic mining. Yes.
Wow. Okay, great. I mean, you mentioned hash rate. Would you just like to clarify just for our audience what hash rate is, just very briefly?
Of course. So hash rate is basically the term that we use, which basically means computing power of a mining equipment. It's called hash rate because the mining rig, as it's called, the computer, and basically a mining rig is highly specialized computer that does one thing, and that one thing is mine Bitcoin. But to mine Bitcoin, they have to hash. I'm not going to get too much into technicalities, but it's called hashing. So that's why we call it hash rate.
Okay. Great. Thanks so much. And why don't you tell us more about what makes Poolin more than just a mining pool?
Of course. Well, the reason is because we have the mining farm operations and the synthetic mining. We have a whole list of also financial tools available for our miners. We were the first mining pool to provide interest-bearing accounts. Also, just all sorts of financial tools, lending, borrowing to our miners, which, traditionally mining in the past has been very difficult to get money, to receive money to expand your operations. So we decided to provide that option for our miners. And not only is it that we're more of a mining pool than a mining pool because of our different avenues, but also because we really do push for professionalism, for 24-hour support. We have a whole list of things that we do very differently from other mining pools that has helped us, propelled us to be the second largest mining pool in the world.
Mm-hmm. Wow, incredible. Great. And we'll get back more into that in a bit. But, I was just reading the headlines the other day, and I just saw El Salvador accepting Bitcoin as a legal tender is now forever etched on the blockchain as mining pool Poolin adds the headline to block 686,938. I mean, that's quite incredible. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So thank you. Yes, we're very happy, very proud to be the pool to have done this. Essentially, it's kind of very simple. When someone finds a Bitcoin block, you're able to add like a small amount of words, and so we went ahead and added that headline to that small area of the Bitcoin block, essentially making that stay forever in the Bitcoin blockchain. And it was such an important historic moment for Bitcoin that it became a legal tender in a country, in a sovereign nation. we were also lucky because we never know who's going to mine the block. I mean, we have a better chance than a lot of other pools because we're very large. But we got the block and we added the text. And again, I'm very proud of that. And so it's the whole team.
Incredible. I mean, maybe we just stay on that subject for a few more minutes. I mean, you mentioned El Salvador accepting legal tenders being, I mean, very, very important for Bitcoin. Would you like to just provide us a little bit more insight on why you believe it's game changing potentially even for Bitcoin?
Sure. So it's Bitcoin as a currency is only 11 years old, and there's been challenge behind challenge along that way. I've been around for almost 7 years of its history, so I've been able to see a lot of the challenges we faced, and we've been ridiculed and kicked on the curb and laughed at by everyone. However, slowly every year things pick up a bit more and more and more. And Bitcoin is a viable currency that is not, it's not controlled by any centralized controlling body in any centralized body at all. It's a new form of currency, and it represents it's a whole new world basically. I don't know what it's going to bring in the future. I think it's going to bring a better type of economy in the future, because if it's not controlled by anyone, then there's no weird things going on in the background like in some other cases. So the El Salvador accepting it as a as a currency, as a legal tender, is a step in the direction that we've been trying to do for the last, well, for me, for 7 years, but the Bitcoin community and Bitcoin as a whole, 11 years. So it was a really, really good moment.
Wow. Yeah, incredible. I couldn't agree more with you. And I mean, if we go now deeper into the mining area, which is your expertise, and we were actually just discussing about you being so far away from where we first met in Amsterdam. I mean, you're in Austin, Texas now. I mean, I'm sure our audience is curious to hear why you're currently over there. And you know that I'm alluding a little bit to the news currently popping out of China. So tell us.
Sure. So yeah, I met you in Amsterdam, lovely Amsterdam. I grew up in Europe, Spain, Holland, Germany, Portugal. Those are the countries I would bounce around in Europe. But yeah, recently, as I mentioned earlier, we're a large mining farm operator, and all of our operations are in China. But recently, the government banned basically Bitcoin mining. We didn't think it was going to happen. As I said, not only I have been around for 7 years, but the CEO and the CTO of Poolin and the COO have also been around for probably even longer than me, around 8 years. So they've seen every single year there's been China's going to ban Bitcoin news every single year, and every single year it turns out to be some very small change that perhaps, for example, in 2017 everyone was freaking out because China was going to ban Bitcoin, but it was just that Bitcoin miners had to basically create a company and tell the local governments what they were doing. So it wasn't a ban, but everyone freaked out. So we thought it was just going to be another day, and another year of China banning Bitcoin, but it turns out it's not true. But this time it turned out to be true. So we've had to scramble. Literally, when the news, I mean, we were following this very closely, very closely. We probably, heard about this before literally anyone else in the world. I got the next morning, I was on my way to the US to start shipping these miners to North America, not only US, but Canada, perhaps Mexico down the line, because North America has, especially the US, has favorable, it's number one, it's a stable economy, a stable government. It's not like the government's just, the Chinese government can say what they want and do what they want, but in the United States, things are a bit different, just to put it lightly. So yeah, we were kind of tired of this whole entire instability. So we're looking for stability, and we have to turn on these miners. We have hundreds and hundreds of megawatts worth of equipment, so that equates to a lot of money not being made. So yeah, I'm in Austin, Texas right now. I've been traveling around the whole entire US. I've been to basically almost every state that you never heard of in the United States. I've been there. It's funny because it's the most random states that are really trying to push mining, like Wyoming, for example. Wyoming, I think there's like 1 million people in the whole state, The state is very, very large, very big state, and there's only 1 million people. There's literally no one. It's just like vacant. But the local government wants to push Bitcoin mining because Bitcoin mining brings in a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of electricity being produced in Wyoming that is otherwise not being used. Stranded gas. There's all sorts of different things, of different electrical generation that is otherwise just being wasted. So the local government is trying to push Bitcoin mining to bring jobs, to bring revenue into the state. But Texas itself is also very, very interesting and attractive because the electricity prices, the power is very, very cheap here. Texas has its own power grid, which is actually the only state in the whole country that has its own power grid. So it doesn't share a power grid at all with the federal government or the rest of the United States. So it has its own. It's quite interesting. It's called ERCOT, and it's a free market electrical grid, which is, I think, the only one in the whole world, if I'm not mistaken. So for us, we're free market guys. We're capitalists. Bitcoin miners are very, very capitalistic and very much attuned to free markets and whatnot. So we really like it here. And the Texans have been working over the years to make the local government here more favorable for Bitcoin mining. The Texans understand that there's a abundance of electricity in Texas that is otherwise not being used or being generated in locations very far away from where they need to be, which is then otherwise just wasted. So they want to use that energy and create, again, jobs, create revenue, and create another industry in their state.
Okay, great. I mean, wow, thanks a lot for that deep dive there. I mean, maybe just touch upon, you mentioned why the United States of America, and a little bit why about some of these areas as well. And I want to really get deeper into some of the energy elements that you alluded to. But before we do that, I mean, why not some other areas that we've seen, for example, like Kazakhstan and other places around the world? I mean, you mentioned stability, but is it only that? I mean, what are your thoughts about other countries or other regions?
Well, that's a good question. We are indeed looking at other regions in the world. Latin America is somewhere that we're keeping an eye on. El Salvador, of course, since it's legal tender there, it's just a matter of that would be very stable, of course, because since it's legal tender, it's not a problem at all. However, El Salvador is pretty interesting because I don't know if the listeners or you have heard of Bitcoin mining on volcanoes. It was kind of a sort of a popular topic in the industry, but it's not so absurd as it sounds, because Bitcoin, what that basically means means geothermal energy, and Bitcoin mining has been mined with geothermal energy since day one. Our good friends in Iceland there's some very massive farms in Iceland that use 100% renewable and this time geothermal energy. So it's not so far-fetched at all. So we're looking at El Salvador. We're looking at Paraguay, that has the second largest dam in the whole entire globe, the Itaipu Dam, which has very low energy usage. Again, green energy. We're looking at Iceland, of course. Iceland, however, has a very established mining industry, so it's a bit more difficult to enter, I suppose. Norway, Sweden, Kazakhstan. Now, Kazakhstan is over capacity already. However, their government has been trying to kind of organize the mining industry in the country, which I think maybe it's a good thing. They just created a tax, actually one of the first place in the whole world that has actually created a tax for mining. Yeah, and it's very, very low. But the government, even in the official press release, they said it's a symbolic price and a first step, which to me reads like they're going to be pushing the price up. But anyway, it's a way for the local government or the government of the country to actually, also get their beak wet, to make some money as well. So I don't have a very good opinion yet on how that's going to look, but we'll see. So yeah, we're looking at other areas across the globe. For us, it's important that we find places where it's more, like I said earlier, Iceland geothermal, El Salvador geothermal, Paraguay, it's hydropower. For us, those type of arrangements of electrical usage is very, very much favorable.
Wow, great. Thank you for the detailed insight. And yeah, mining on a volcano. I mean, that sounds both adventurous and quite quite cool. Nothing but the crypto industry to do something as crazy. It's a very interesting one, right? The energy part, and you mentioned energy usage as well. And from this topic, I want to go a little bit into proof of work, right? I mean, you have a lot of companies that are now developing on proof of stake, all right? And I just want to get your, it's going to be a little bit longer question, but kind of like your ideas on proof of work, the longevity of proof of work, and maybe some of the eco implications of proof of work that we've seen some major influencers, to not name any, kind of mention that, oh, is Bitcoin really eco-friendly? Look at how much energy it's using, etc. I mean, yeah, long-winded question, but I think you've kind of got the point.
Sure. So it's quite fascinating. I always think it's fascinating because Bitcoin is basically the only technology that we have today that can actually be traced to the amount of energy that is being used. You can't trace, for example, the amount of PlayStations that are being used or at one given time, which is much more than the amount of electricity used by Bitcoin miners or financial institutions, how much electricity and power they use. You can't trace that. But with Bitcoin, it's possible to trace. It's actually I find it fascinating that this system itself actually allows for tracking of the energy usage, which it's new. It's a new thing, which gives ignorant or misinformed parties, like it's kind of an easy criticism in Bitcoin. Now, proof of work is by far the most secure system for a decentralized digital currency or digital blockchain because you have to recreate the amount of electrical usage in order to change the transactions that have been added into the blockchain. So let's just to break it down. If you want to change the transaction that happened 30 minutes ago, that's 3 blocks because a block comes every 10 minutes. You would have to recreate the amount of electrical power that was used to create those 3 blocks. So that's impossible unless the US, China, and Europe decide to put all their electrical or it's basically impossible to recreate the electrical energy usage of Bitcoin to change the transaction. So that's what makes it extremely secure. Now, proof of stake is it's less security and much more centralized. Now, the centralization aspect I would like to focus on because it basically recreates the whole entire financial system that we have now, which is, if you own a lot of capital, you're able to buy a lot of proof of stake coins and you gain a much higher advantage or you get more proof of stake rewards than the guy down the street that's just working, a working class guy. So it kind of does not rechange much of the system that we have today, and the security aspect is much less. Like I said, the proof of work, you need to recreate the electrical usage. With proof of stake, it requires just capital, and capital, as we all know, I'm sure all the listeners here understand this very well too, is more or less easy to come by. You can get a lot of capital and you can buy a lot of this coin. Thus, the security of a proof of stake coin relies on the like it's this Achilles heel that you can gain a lot of power in that system if you have a lot of capital to put up front. So Bitcoin mining proof of work allows for iterations of mining machines. Let's say someone comes with a better mining machine, this group of people will be able to get more Bitcoin. So there's a level of, there's always the option that someone's going to build a better machine, or someone's going to build a better software, or someone's going to find very cheaper electrical prices, which will then give that person an advantage. In proof of stake, there's no such thing. Proof of stake is all about how much money you got, and that's how much more you're going to get.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I mean, a lot of areas I'd like to actually touch on with regards to that. Maybe we just go rather quickly. I mean, you mentioned if somebody were to build a better machine, they could mine then more Bitcoin. What do you think then about quantum computing and then the ability to potentially kind of break everything there's SHA-256, kind of being able to mine faster? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I get this question a lot, actually. It's quite simple, really. I don't know if you have heard or the listeners have heard of Taproot. Taproot is actually a Bitcoin upgrade. I helped lead the mining pools to basically lock in this software upgrade. But just like Taproot, that's a software upgrade that's going to that's locked in and it's going to upgrade in November. Just like we've done that as an industry, we can actually upgrade Bitcoin to a algorithm that is quantum resistant. So it's just a matter of really like the whole entire people fail to understand that if quantum computing comes out, the whole internet will be at risk. It's not just Bitcoin. Everything is going to be at risk. Everything. Banking, email, protocols, everything is going to be at risk, and everyone's going to have to upgrade to a algorithm that is quantum resistant. So it will change. It will change the game for everyone. But Bitcoin has the possibility and the ability to upgrade. So it's just a matter of upgrading. It's not a big deal.
Okay, yeah, very, very interesting. And we touched a little bit about the kind of volcanoes, geothermal energy. I mean, do you want to speak about the eco implications of proof of work just a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah. So the majority of Bitcoin mining right now, I would say more than 50% is done with green energy. Like I said earlier, Iceland has been mining Bitcoin, which Iceland represents a pretty big chunk of the Bitcoin mining hash rate. Global Bitcoin mining hash rate has been geothermal. Most of I'd say more than 50%, around 60, 70% of the mining that used to occur in China was hydro. So if you take into account how much of the mining was done in China, which was around 60%, 70% of that 60% was hydro. So I don't know the math, but that was a pretty large percentage already. Yes. That was green. Now, and then you have already coming up Paraguay, North America has a lot of hydro, a lot of geothermal, and Texas has a lot of stranded gas that is otherwise being flared or being used for other industries. So basically, Bitcoin mining comes and provides an avenue for flaring, for stranded gas, and for excess hydro, excess green, solar, and wind, for it to be used. It actually propels the green sustainable energy revolution, because if you are a solar power company that's setting up a solar plant, and what you do is sell to the grid, what happens is that if the grid doesn't need your energy, you can then send that surplus energy to a Bitcoin mining farm that the solar power company either owns or has a joint venture with miners, and that will help them make the venture much more profitable. Nowadays, with Bitcoin mining, these green electrical startups or companies can have a different avenue of revenue generation through Bitcoin mining. So it actually makes it much more viable for someone to say, okay, I want to start up a bunch of wind power. And let's say 70% of that is being bought by the grid, but let's say the grid doesn't need that 30%. Oh, okay. Well, we'll set up a mining farm, and now that energy, which would otherwise be wasted, is now generating funds for my wind farm. And now I have a better cash flow, and I can expand even more.
No, you can fuel a whole new financial market. I mean, it's truly fascinating. I mean, thank you so much for those insights, and I'm sure we could go much deeper, but unfortunately we are edging closer to the end of this episode. I wanted to leave you some time, Alejandro, to give us your vision of the future of the blockchain industry as a whole, and maybe even that of the crypto markets.
Sure. So I think we're going to see, as I said, we're going to see Bitcoin mining become a viable cash flow generation, money generation for a lot of green power plants. We're going to see a distribution of the decentralized mining. With the China banning Bitcoin, it's now a sort of a new dawn for Bitcoin mining, because now all these machines are going to be going to all parts of the globe, and we're going to see even stronger network. And what I relate, a stronger security network, which comes from proof of work with a stronger value in the currency. Now, don't this is my own opinion, but that's what I think. And I think El Salvador accepting Bitcoin as legal tender is just one domino to fall. I think Central America is probably one of the most interesting places for Bitcoin, because Central America is not necessarily the most richest area of the world, and they've been their currencies are not that strong. Now, if they tap into a decentralized currency like Bitcoin, which is what El Salvador did, it could present a whole entire new way of economy. Maybe let's say Guatemala or Honduras starts accepting Bitcoin too. Then these three countries could trade with each other in a currency that is arguably stronger than their fiat currency, and this will also create less volatility for Bitcoin. As you know, Bitcoin volatility has been always going on a downtrend. Every single year, volatility is less and less in Bitcoin, albeit some crazy black swan events like China banning Bitcoin for real. But I think it's going to be. I think Bitcoin is here to stay, and it's going to be a great future. We'll see.
Wow. Well, that's a great note to finish on, and thank you so much, Alejandro, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sheraz, and make sure to like and subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to check out more on our website, cryptovalley.swiss, where we host plenty of events, educational material, and even provide information on how you can join our growing community. Thanks again, Alejandro, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Our pleasure. Stay tuned, stay safe, and until next time from the Crypto Valley in Switzerland. Bye-bye.